What is up, everyone? Circon here, bringing you guys another video from the test server. This time around, we're going to take a look at the K-91, the new Tier 10 Soviet medium. And this is, of course, a preview from the test server, as it has not reached live server yet as the recording of this video. But yeah, let's get stuck right into it. So, first up, how much XP do you need to actually get the tank? And the same thing goes as the previous video. If you have the T10 or you already have the 432, you can already grind the XP that you need currently pre-patch so that you can either get the new tank entirely or at least have already done a whole lot of the research costs, because you need to have, as you can see, 252,000 or 253k basically the research cost. It is a tier 10, so it's going to cost you 6.1 million credits. So what does it all give you? So let's take a look at the stats first, which are, pretty decent as far as I could tell. There's a couple of issues with it that I'll tell you about, and it's a little bit less straightforward than the heavy tank that we previewed earlier. So what are you getting going from the 416 to the 432 to the K-91? Well, you're getting a lot more DPM, and you get 1700 shell velocity on the basic shell that you can shoot here. It's actually pretty insane. And of course, the base pen is really, really high compared to the 201 you get on these two. And with these two, you always have that really sick heat that you can use, but on this one, you definitely don't need to use as much heat because you have 276 base pen. So your rate of fire goes up, the alpha stays the same that you're getting used to. Rate of fire just goes up. Gun handling gets a lot better. The aiming time of 1.6 is really nice. Dispersion goes down to 32. After moving is a slight nerf, but like nothing major. And tank the first, turret the first, gun handling actually gets a lot better. After firing gets worse, which is a bit weird because you shoot faster. So if you're standing still, that is a little bit weird. And then this is actually my main glaring problem with it so far, having played it myself, is that the mobility actually goes down. So it weighs a lot more, and it barely gets more, and it loses engine power over the tier 9. And this results into a very sluggish tank. Even the terrain resistances are lower. The tank traverse is like higher than the tier 9, but lower than the tier 8. And then the effective traverse is also a lot lower again than the tier 8. So this is one thing that I've really noticed. So basically what this is supposed to be, or this tank line, and I think they're thinking about changing the tier 9 as well, because the tier 9 currently has pretty decent armor, while still having a good gun and everything. The K-91 is more like the Optics 416. Now, personally, I love the 416. I absolutely adore it. I think it's really dope. It has no armor, but it has really good camo. It's a relatively small target. It is nimble, and it has a really sick gun for tier 8, right? It basically has a tier 9 gun at tier 8, which is really nice, especially for a medium tank that's fairly rare still. So, and the armor here, that's what a lot of people that have played on the test server are complaining about. The armor is not that good because what they think they're going to get is another 432, but what they're actually getting is just the tier 10 version of the Optic 416. So keep this in mind. If you're grinding this thinking that you're going to get some heavily armored medium tank again, that is simply just not the case. But yeah, let's take a little bit longer look at the K-91 itself. Stats itself are pretty damn nice. 410 fuel range is something that's really nice to pick up. 5 2 gun depression is actually a lot better than the tier 8 and 9, which have, I think, 3 and then 4 gun depression respectively, with backwards turreted tanks as well. And like I said, the aiming time, it's all about the gun. The gun is extreme sniping, right? Only sad part is 328 damage with sniping is not that, like, you really want to have the 390. And just like the previous tests we did, we cannot really look at the armor layout itself, but I can tell you just by playing and just looking at the stats of 220 turret, 140 hull. Now, 140 hull sounds really sick, but it really isn't, because the lower plate is, well, not super flat, but it is, from what I have seen in the server, is not that great. And the turret will bounce, probably, like, the armor will probably hold out against tier 8 and maybe even some of the lower pen tier 9s. But all in all, this is more a 416 more than anything, right? So you sacrifice your armor, and then you're supposed to get mobility, which this tank just doesn't get. And that's the thing I would really like to see a change in. It also gets heat with 950 velocity, so a lot slower heat versus your insanely fast APCR. Now, unlike the heavy tank, I have no problems with having really high velocity APCR as a base shell for a tank like this, right? If it's an actual sniper tank, it makes sense to have really high velocity. I would love to see this on Leo ones and stuff though, right? Which are also kind of dedicated sniper mobile tanks, right? So yeah, I don't know. I like the tank, and it's wrong to assume that it has armor, and that's why a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, I don't like this thing because it doesn't have armor." I think we should actually be really happy that we finally have a Russian tank without horrendous amounts of armor because it's literally all over the tech tree, right? The TDs, like the medium tanks, the heavy tanks. Russians always have armor, 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 and still maintaining a lot of speed. I like that this is something totally different, right? So let's just compare it to a couple of the tier 10s that are trying to be similar to it. So like the Leo one, I put the Progetto there and STB one. Now there are probably some other tanks you could add maybe to this list, but I think these are the closest ones in playstyle. And what you can see is that you have really freaking good DPM, like insanely good DPM, close to the STB1. But unlike the STB1, you actually have a really good gun handling, right? So I kind of feel like a lot of the stats that this thing is rocking should be transferable to the Leo 1. Honestly, if they look at the buff to Leo 1, I think they should look towards the K-91 and maybe transfer some of those things. Now, sure, the Leo still has a couple of advantages, which has the 390 alpha, which is a big deal. Like 320 at tier 10 is just nothing, right? And using DPM in a sniper tank is always hard because if you're sniping, you usually are not allowed to take several shots in a row, right? And the Leo still has the gun depression, right, of 9 compared to the 5 and even 10 of the STB1. So I'm not saying the Leo 1 couldn't use any buffs or anything, and I'm not saying the Leo 1 is a really good tank. I still think the STB1 is a bit more my playstyle personally. But in a lot of ways, I think a lot of these gun buffs should be applicable to the Leo 1 after playing it. Now, this is the biggest thing I don't like about it personally. I have absolutely zero problems with it having, not that great of a armor. I'm completely okay with that. But it should have some speed. Now, I'm not saying it should be the exact same, like, again, the Leo 1, the Progetto, and maybe even STB1. And because, it does have way more armor. Like, it has way more armor. It is way more HE resistant and stuff like this. And it does have a lot less health, 1800 compared to almost 2k, 1900, 1950, right? So almost 2k. But this is the biggest thing. Like, if you're going to transfer this from the 416, 430 to the K91, they should probably change the 432 to be a more sniper role as well. But I would love for the K91 to not be so sluggish. Because it really, especially for grinding this line, or you have played the tier 9 a lot, and you're like, yes, let's get the tier 10. You're actually kind of hit with a brick because you lose 5 power to weight, which is an extremely big deal. And you lose terrain assistances across the board. Like, it's so much more sluggish. And whilst at the moment, you don't get a better armor layout for it than the tier 9. Right now, the tier 9, besides from having low base pen, it's just a simply better tank than the tier 10 in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not sure if 400 extra DPM and a really blazingly fast shell is going to make up for a lot of the other troubles that it has, right? Because again, tier 9 matchmaking will just be a lot better. Now, so I'm not saying it should be OP. If anything, I'd almost wish they would lower the armor of the K91 some more and just make it a really nimble tank that you still have to work around 5 degrees of gun depression for. But if you manage to use the 5 degrees backwards turret mounted tank, that's still a challenge there to make it work with a backwards mounted turret, 5 degrees gun depression. I would love to see something like that. Right now, it's just a weird mix-up between the 432 and the 416, whilst I'd rather see it be more like a tier 10 416. Because, well, personally, I really enjoyed that style of play. I think it's a very unique one. And, I don't know. I would just love to see that change. But just like the previous preview, I'm just going to take you on a little trip to watch one of my replays that I played on the test server so you can get a little bit better look and feel for the tank. Because it will always work out better than just looking at a couple of stats, right? So let's take a look at the next replay. Alright, so let's take a look at how it actually performs in the game here on the K-91 on proper Rovka. Full tier 10 game, we're obviously on the test server. There's free artillery as well. And as you can see, it is nimble once it finally starts going, but you really notice the relatively poor power to weight of it. And that's definitely something that I wish they could buff, or would buff before they release this thing. Because, you know, like I said, it would be really nice to just have no armor and just, you know, have some speed there, and still have the backward turret and all that. It would just be kind of more of a challenging tank to play, but it could still be really fun, I think. But it is from Rovka, so I'm going to a fairly classic spot, as you know by now, because it's also encounter, so most of the fighting is going to be happening on this side of the train track. And, you know, I get here fairly late, and I'm almost worried that there's already going to be people on the hill that can almost proxy spot me if they were going absolutely ham, but not yet. So here we're gonna peek on the... What is this? Why is the name there? That's so weird. Must have been a replay thing. Anyway, it's the K-91. For some reason the enemies are named instead of the tank names. This is a little bit weird. And there's the E5. Obviously no, we're not gonna shoot because we don't want to get spotted here. But you can see in these long range engagements that the shell flussies is insane, right? With the 1700 that it was. And here another shot in the K-91 and like almost insta. And like I said, I kind of feel like the Leo 1 should maybe have a gun like this with the 390 Alpha. That would be kind of sweet. Yeah. The only reason I shot him there is, and you may not have noticed, is because actually the E5 was got RT'd, so this commander was like all stunned, so you probably couldn't see me anyway. So it's the only reason I would shoot there. Otherwise, I probably should have shot him at the track though in hindsight. And I bet you get super lucky there. Just to get with the low calibers, it gets like extreme angles. So that you get weird bounces like that every once in a while. The 277, I wait till other people start shooting. And then I still don't bet it, unfortunately. And I do get spotted right away. And I have the lucky bounce there. And that was pretty much gun meddled or just my gun what he hit there. So yeah, as you can see, and this is mostly what the these previews are for. You can see that the mobility is just kind of lackluster compared to what kind of package deal you're getting, right? And I would much rather have it be even less armored and be a lot more like the 416 than the Object 432. Because I think they already are planning on changing the 432 to be more like the 416 as well. Or at least I've heard things on like the super test and stuff like this, right? And now, for some reason, my Super Conqueror is like super interested in pushing two tanks while we still don't own the middle, so that's a little bit awkward. Speaking of awkward, this budget is also way out of position, so we're gonna try and bop. And again, that's like almost max render range shots that are just near insta. And all these small maps like Riddle Tanks is played on fairly small maps. This kind of shell flussy is just insane, right? But I don't think it's like a thing that would be like OP. But just kind of like a cool niche for the tank is more like it, right? And there's the bane of the game here. Hit him in the lower plate. And of course, Super Conqueror dies because like you cannot push there if you don't control the middle, and especially if there's still artillery, you just kind of get roasted. But yeah, the Conqueror GC gets spotted there. We get hit by the 277, and we just back off. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should spot the artillery over there. Maybe we're fast enough down the hill. And you can just feel that this tank is just not as fast as you'd like. And I say this about a lot of tanks, right? Almost every tank, I'm like, you know what? If this was tank alarm this faster, that'd be cool. But this tank doesn't need to be faster in the top speed. It needs to be more nimble for me to really, really enjoy it, right? And like I said, I just really enjoy the 416 for what it is. And yeah, I can only hope that they maybe change this tank before they release it. But like Wargaming is really lackluster when it comes to test servers and releasing tanks. It always feels like they do a test server, but like, does anything really get changed? Like, usually not a lot of things get changed, right? So we're up to a decent amount of damage here. I think we're almost at like 3k plus. But it is a full tier 10 game on the test server, so like anything can happen. And I'm about to show you something you really shouldn't do. And that is attacking a heavy tank. Like I am gonna do now. Like this is just this is some test server memes is what this is. I'm like, you know what? How bad can the armor be, right? So maybe we can like face hug this guy or something like that. And here I make a crucial mistake. I vastly underestimate the gun depression of a Panzer 7, and I take one shot for free, and I should have just ran the fuck away, but nope. Stubborn as we are in the test server, as YOLO as we are, fuck it, right? And then we hit the non-lower plate. Like, it looks like a lower plate, but it doesn't start there yet, and we get another shot, and I'm like, oh boy, we screwed this one up. And if I didn't take that first hit, I could have killed him. But now, even when putting my gun in the way, we still got wrecked like that. And, you know, that's something you really don't want to do. You have 5 degrees of gun depression and backwards mounted turret. That's pretty much the exact thing you do not want to do. But hey, hopefully showcasing you a little bit of the tank here, showing you the replay. And, you know, hopefully you get a little bit of a better feel, just like in the other preview, about how the tank just plays and feels. Instead of just looking at the numbers, I figure I add a little replay at the end there. But yeah, final thoughts. I think it's going to be cool if they buff the maneuverability and maybe nerf the armor. And then you truly have a unique Russian medium tank, right? The only thing I will say though, and that's has nothing to do with like real tanks. Well, it kind of has to do with real tanks, but with this tank, the Russians have every playstyle available to them except for autoloaders. So, you know, if they ever get an auto-loading medium tank at tier 10, they literally have everything. And maybe auto-reloading at some point, which would be insane. But obviously the Russians made so many damn tanks after World War II that the schematics and actual tanks that existed is just insane, right? But it is kind of funny to see compared to like other nations that have like literally one medium tank. These guys will have like 6 million by now. And, you know, I get it. It is a lot to pull from, but holy shit. Oh my god, I said it, haven't I? They're gonna get autoloaders now. Next patch confirmed. Anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little preview. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.